Good morning. This is Dory and Nick with Indie Life Adventures, summarizing our recent boat trip taking the sailing vessel Serenity from Fort Washington on the Potomac to Harrington Harbor on Chesapeake Bay. Nick, do you want to tell our viewers and our number one fan, my dad, about this latest excursion?
Yeah, so it was fun. I think we had a good time. It was a 3-day adventure, and when I say adventure, I think it meets those check marks of what adventure should be.
I agree.
So we left Saturday about 1 o'clock, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, noon to 1 o'clock, about 12:30, I think, and we had a good afternoon. If you are anywhere near the Potomac and this part of Virginia, there's so many historical sites. And we happened to pass Mount Vernon
And Fort Washington.
And a few other places I think on the way. But those are the two that are most notable, I think, from just from Fort Washington and the Tantalon Marina. But no, we set out on what was to be 120 or 130 nautical mile sail, motoring actually, motor and motor sailing, and we had a pretty good time, I think.
We did. We were under the supervision of Captain Dave. So he was the captain who had been hired to move this boat. It was needing to be moved to the Chesapeake in order to finish the survey. That's where they were going to haul it out of the water to do the out-of-water survey in order for us to determine if that is going to be the boat for us for a purchase. And so it was so nice getting the opportunity to test drive it before committing to the purchase. But after this 3-day, 2-night excursion, we're still in love with the boat and are looking forward to the survey results to see if this is indeed the boat for us. Tell them about the boat.
All right, so it's a 1986 Island Packet 38. It's got like a 42 horse Yanmar, I believe. I think talking to the owner, they said it had an oversized prop. She was completely naked when we took her out, so she didn't have any sails up. She was ready for winter. And she's been sitting for the last couple of years. It's been a live aboard, sitting in a marina. And so we were quite interested to see how things would work and how she would perform. As vehicles and boats and everything else, sitting for a while can be hard on just could be hard on them. So we decided that it would just be interesting to see how things worked out.
And I think that's probably why it wasn't super surprising that there were some fuel issues along the way. Even my dad had strongly warned us, or hey, you need to consider this, that there could be some challenges with the engine since it hasn't been operated a lot lately. And so, it wasn't a huge shocker, but I assumed these kind of things are just par for the course whenever you're in the boating world. So it was nice to encounter the challenges with the captain there, though in truth, hell, you knew a lot. I think we'd have probably been just fine even if it was just the two of us. So I appreciate all your engine and mechanical knowledge, because he was down there messing in the engine, changing out filters. I've learned there are 2 filters. There's a Raycon filter and a fuel filter, and both filter fuel. Correct me if I'm wrong, the fuel filter is to a higher micron level, so it captures the smaller particles, whereas the Raycon filter is like the first wash, and the fuel filter is the final wash.
Yeah, and they've got
I'm trying to learn.
and it's also there for the fuel water separator as well, so you can, if you got any water or moisture in the fuel, you can use that to drain that off as well. But overall, it was interesting. So we did have some challenges, but we had a lot of successes. So success number 1 was we got it from Tantalon Marina to Harrington Harbor North. It did not make it under its own power for the last about 3 maybe 4 miles.
Yeah, but that too was an amazing learning experience.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Holy cow! What was
make
it?
sure you get your tow insurance. Okay, so Boat US.
Boat US, they rocked it. Like we called them, they were at our location within an hour. Whenever they were towing us in at the tail end of this trip, that was the fastest we had even ever gone. Like it got up to 7 miles per hour. I was tracking it on my Garmin, which does miles and not knots. But this operator was so good. Not only did he get us to the marina so quick, but he parked us right in our slip. Like he was able to just get us right in there. Like super impressed with the Boat US rescue operator.
So definitely the intent of us crewing was one, to provide some assistance and to move the boat for one. Because it is quite a travel to do 129, 130 or so miles, especially solo. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to get acquainted with the boat, spend some time with a seasoned captain, as well as just kind of learn some of the nuances that the boat has, and get some hands-on, and as well as getting experience in the Potomac as well as the Chesapeake Bay. I thought it would be a great opportunity to have someone there with experience, and be able to basically hold them hostage for 3 days while I pick their brain for information, and we worked some things out as far as my thoughts on the boat, and had questions, and they could help they could help answer them. So definitely was a success, and we did have some challenges along the way. Fuel is one. And it actually started making its appearance early on day 2. So before we got to Tall Timbers Marina. But let's take a step and go back for just a second and talk about kind of day 1. We left about 12:30, and we stopped, I think, probably close to about 10:30 at night.
Oh, it was at least 10:30 at night.
But we wanted to push through, and we got down to, it's the 301 bridge. I think there's Colonial Beach. We actually ended up anchoring just across from Colonial Beach.
Which that is the first time we've taken a sailboat under a bridge.
That's true, yeah.
Whoa.
It's a big bridge too.
Huge bridge, but it still just makes your heart flutter when you see your mast up there and you see the bridge, and it's a really weird feeling.
Right. So a lot of firsts on this trip.
First time going under a bridge. First time putting up a Genoa sail while underway on a brand new boat that we've never put a sail on before. That was, I would say, a success and a learning experience.
Definitely a learning experience. There's some.
It made me realize you can actually get a workout on a boat.
Oh yeah, so definitely some best practices. So,
and that sail was ginormous. Like we're used to having our 27 Erickson or our 19-foot Flying Scott that have manageable sails. This was our first time putting up a sail on a 38-foot boat, and it just shocked me how huge the sail was. Like it was a giant sail. And the fact that you can't just pull it on its own. Like you've got to use the winch. And so
yeah, we've been spoiled. On the Erickson, we just, every once in a while, if we're trying to pinch close into the wind, we'll use the winches there. But most of the time, we just manually move it by hand, tie it off. So this was a learning curve, just to understand that the amount of force that Genoa has definitely needs a winch to tame it. So
it also made me realize that you could potentially get yourself in a lot of trouble when those sheets are flapping in the wind and when the sail is flapping in the wind, because there were some periods where we didn't quite have full control, and I could see us getting all tangled up or knocked overboard or getting whacked in the head, and it just made me realize that this is important work and you've got to be fully present for it and know what to do. And we successfully did it, but I would definitely want to practice this a few more times. And perhaps, maybe not do it while we're motoring.
Perhaps not underway, but sometimes you just do things and you learn, right?
And Dave was great too, because he would turn the boat into the wind to make it to where the sail wasn't about to knock the hell out of me. So
right.
It was exciting.
So yeah, so a lot of firsts. some night sailing. We've done some of that, but not a lot.
Not where you had to look for channel markers. I found that challenging.
Right.
Not only at night, whenever the lights, there's so many lights, and you're trying to figure out which one is the light that I need to be focused on. But even during the day, the channel markers are a lot less frequent than I expected. Like, there were many times I couldn't see the next channel marker. And so I need to learn how to read charts so that I know when to expect a channel marker and where the marker will be. Because I was just going on blind faith that y'all knew what you were doing. And every once in a while I'd look out and be like, I don't see any markers.
Right. Another first, we learned the joys of autopilot.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Holy cow. Amazing. Like why doesn't everybody have an autopilot? Amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
So good. It was a freaky feeling that you could all be below deck and the boat still going. That would catch me by surprise. It'd be like, this doesn't feel right. Let me get back out there. Or Nick, you get back out there. It's cold.
Yeah, I don't think she ever said that once.
I didn't. That I should get out there?
No, that I need to go outside.
Oh no, you were always out there. He worked so hard on this trip. So hard. I worked really hard at staying warm is really what I tried to work hard at. It took me by surprise. I thought I packed enough clothes, but it got chilly. Even though it was sunny and beautiful and we had perfect weather for late November, it's just cold out there.
It was cold, yeah. That's all right, though.
He's tough.
So we went, we anchored first night just south of the 301 bridge. Mm-hmm. Woke up, we headed south, and like I said, that was where the fuel issues kind of started to make themselves known. I think we were headed into, or planning on stopping at the Tall Timbers Marina, and we were probably a couple miles out, and I was like, the engine started to bog down, and I'm like, oh, we might be out of fuel, and so it kept going. I just eased the throttle down a little bit, and it seemed to even itself out. We had a few challenges trying to navigate the tide and get into Tall Timbers, but we succeeded. So yeah. we got into Tall Timbers, tied off to the fuel dock. And we had communicated with the marina on the way in just to make sure we had a good information on navigating the inlet because it's shallow and that the tide was actually going out. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough room to get in, and it worked out. It is important to have your charts and to pay attention to obstructions and different things like that. But if you can get some experience from people that are in the area, it's definitely helpful. So, but we got in there, and we were kind of hungry by that point.
Oh,
so
man.
We kind of held off on having breakfast. So what did we get in there, about 10, 11 o'clock?
Yes, it was a little after 10,
yep.
And they were serving a breakfast buffet till 12:30. Wow. So good. You would have thought that we hadn't eaten for a week. Like, I was so excited about that breakfast buffet. They had everything. It was so good. And that stop was very, 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 very important in my mind for two specific reasons. One, we got this amazing breakfast buffet. And two, I met my angel named Luke, who was a waiter there who gave me a blanket because I had forgotten to pack any bedding on this trip. And I had spoken to our own waitress. I'm like, hey, do y'all sell any blankets? Is there somewhere close by I can walk to get a blanket? And she's like, no, we don't sell those and we don't have those. But Luke, another waiter, overheard, and he's like, I have a blanket you can have. Oh, thank you, Luke. That blanket made all the difference.
Yeah, so night one was cold. I would say, I think all three of us, the captain, myself, Dory, I think we all agreed that it was cold, and we didn't get much sleep.
No. Even though the boat was super calm.
Yeah, with the anchorage
was great.
Everything worked out.
It was so cold.
But it was just cold. And so we had breakfast, and then we were going to fuel the boat up. We had some issues fueling the boat up. It would spew fuel out the filler neck because the vent on there was clogged. So it wasn't allowing. It was just building up pressure, and so you get a few gallons in there, it would just spew out the top. And I think we got probably about
15 gallons.
Yeah,
right?
just over 15 gallons into the tank, and we said, well, that should be enough to get us to where we're going.
Well, the challenge was the fuel gauge on the boat didn't work, so we didn't exactly know how much fuel we were starting with, and we didn't know how much fuel we needed. And you guys looked hard for a stick to like dip in and couldn't. So we were really going blind off of just kind of estimates of what the owner thought was still in the tank.
Yep, and so we kind of winged it, and from that point forward, we took off into the afternoon, and it was interesting because we were headed into the mouth. We're just north of the mouth, or just inside the mouth of the Potomac, and we were making our way down that afternoon to Lookout Point, and making our way around that point there where we entered the Chesapeake Bay, and it just seemed like that was probably like a huge portion of our trip. It was almost like we never quite made it around. It was just always right there. But it was just a few hours. So once we got up and around that, we just kept moving on. And
is that where y'all made the first filter change?
I think so. I think we made the first filter change.
Because the engine just kept bogging down. You could hear it. It was like slow down, and then you're like didn't know whether it was going to die, but then it kind of revved back up again, and then it was just this periodic point of the engine bogging down. And that's when I think it was you who were like, well, let's change the filter. Yeah,
so we decided to inspect the ray core and kind of see what was going on. And then it's got a little bowl on the bottom of it that you can see, and that's usually so you can see the separation between the water and the fuel, and you can drain that off and just move forward. But you're looking in there, and if you look at some of the pictures that were or the video, or I think Dory had posted some.
Some of the video.
You can see it. It was all gunked up. I think a lot of that was some algae growth, and kind of had some issues that were clogging it up. So when we pulled it out, the slime and goop had just kind of came out with the filter, and then we worked to kind of clean it out as best as we could. Then we prepped it, set it back together, and decided we'd give it a try. And for the first few minutes, it sounded great. It was running like a champ, and then it started bogging down again. So we did a second filter change later on down the road. I think that was the next day.
Yeah, the next morning. So we figured we'd just keep pushing until the next morning. We'd change it out in the morning before we left to make our final leg of the trip. And overall, it kept going. I think we didn't have any issues, never stalled out, but it was just kind of every once in a while, the engine would bog down, and we'd kind of push through, and it would move on, and it would keep running. So the motor is strong. It was definitely a fuel issue, and it could have been a combination of moisture and clogged filters and all sorts of things. So and vapor lock.
Oh yeah, and the vapor lock, that was because that vent. So while the vent wouldn't let air out while you were filling, it's also not letting air in while the fuel drops, and so the vacuum on there was pretty high.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not a marine mechanic, so that's getting checked out, and someone can verify what was going on. And they're actually going to do a fuel clean probably this week or next week on the vehicle, or on the sailing vessel. So besides that was day 2.
The second night's anchorage was quite a bit different than the first night's anchorage. Now, on one hand, it was awesome because we were warm. I had that blanket. We were snuggled. It was such a good blanket. But the difference is where they anchored the second night, the waves were big. Like, we were rocking and rolling all night long. Now, it just rocked me to sleep. I was so tired. I slept through most of it. But you really felt it a lot and heard it a lot and were more attuned to all the noises than I was.
Oh, yeah. So night 2, we pulled in. We were just inside the Pax River entrance over by Pax Naval Air Station. and we had anchored just offside the golf course, and we pulled in there, set anchor, and it was interesting. We had a few cruise liners and some big tanker ships that had come by, and then we were catching a few sets of rollers that were coming through, and they were kind of hitting us broadside just because the way we kind of set in there and the way the wind was blowing. So they were the first couple sets were just, they weren't too bad, but then once we got anchored and we were getting ready to settle in for the evening, just a few, I don't know, probably like 5 minutes worth of rollers were coming in. They were just hitting us broadside and really had the boat rocking.
To the point where we were thinking about relocating.
Yeah, we actually had considered just moving across to the north side of the inlet and resetting the anchor and so forth. But once those calmed down, I was kind of waiting to see if some more came through, but nothing actually bigger than that actually came through. So that was the most violent action of the evening until about 3:30. I started to hear the wind started to blow, and we kind of reconned the forecast, and we knew that we were going to have some winds that were shifting, and they did. About 3:30, 3:40 in the morning, you could hear the howl of the wind started to change directions, and that was pushing us right up towards the bank there on the south side of the Pax River entrance, and and shortly after that, the roller started to move in. So just the tension on the anchor, and as the boat was rocking up and down, it was just like a thrumming of a drum. And then in addition to, for whatever the wind speed was at the time, it was playing the boat like a jaw harp, and just a certain vibration, So that was just, inside the boat, it was quite loud. Now, I guess Dory said she didn't hear any of it, but
no,
I did.
I was sleeping soundly.
About once the wind started howling about 3:30, I think I was probably up until about 4:30, and maybe after that I was so exhausted I fell back to sleep for a little while, and then the waves, the wave state kind of built up, and we were expecting for that day, we were expecting small craft advisories with 1 and 2 foot waves, and we started getting those probably, I don't know, about 4:30 in the morning. The waves started to kind of pick up, and we woke up to it, just the anchor stretching, anchor line, or the chain just stretching out, and kind of making a drum clunking sound.
Yeah.
And Dora's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's just us, we're
yeah, when I finally woke
up
up around 7 or 7:30, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is that noise?" And it was just the anchor banging. But the waves, like, we were rolling, like the waves were strong, and I did fine with the waves up until you guys decided to do another filter change that morning.
Yeah.
And something about the waves and then just the smell of the fumes from that, I started to feel a little queasy. And so I got out of the boat and sat up on the deck and just got some fresh air. But yeah, I did not like the queasy feeling. It's like, no, I cannot be seasick. I cannot be seasick. And so the fresh air helped tremendously. But yeah, so y'all changed on this third filter change, though. The first 2 were Raycor filters, and then the third one was just the fuel filter.
Yeah, we only did 2 changes on the Raycor filters, and then we talked to John, the owner of the boat, and we're like, "Hey, so we're still having some issues with the engine and running." He's like, "Hey, try the actual fuel filter and see if it's gunked up. It's got a smaller micron size." So we went ahead and changed that out, and then from there we decided we'd head out, and we started up the motor and moved on up the coast.
Yeah.
So it was pretty, I don't know, it was pretty easy going.
Yeah.
We made it up probably, I'm trying to think, just north of the Pax River entrance. There's a liquid natural gas petroleum like refinery or something of that nature. Maybe it's just a platform, but it's out there in the middle of the Chesapeake. Well, not middle, but offshore of the Chesapeake Bay. And we decided we let the Genoa out and see if we can get some help and take advantage of the wind, um, which was, I don't know, it was kind of not advantageous just because of the wind direction, but we were gonna, spend some of that, maybe try to help us along and not use as much fuel since we were having some fuel problems. And by the time we got to, I don't know, we kind of did that for messing around with that for about an hour or two, and we said, let's just pull it in and we're just going to motor the rest of the way by itself. And had more motor problems, engine problems with the stalling out, and made it a little bit north of there. I think we were just, what is it, Chesapeake Beach or something like that, I think is what it was. We made it about right there, and then we decided to call it the towboat.
Yeah.
It was just at that point we were like, hey, it was getting dark, and it's not good, going through the small channel that sits there in Herring Harbor is probably, well, Harrington Harbor, I guess, Herring Bay, I think is what it was. Would be a little bit difficult if we had, additional engine problems, and the wave state was building a little bit for the evening, and the wind was kind of changing, and so we wanted to make sure we were safe. And Dave made the call to, call the towboat, and so I think that took about an hour maybe for the towboat to come and pick us up, and then another hour and a half before we got back into to our spot there at Harrington Harbor. So overall, it was fine.
It was, and it was a very eye-opening transition. So it took 3 days and 2 nights to get the boat from Tantalon Marina to Harrington Harbor North. And then once we tucked the boat in, got everything secure, we called an Uber to take us back to Tantalon because that's where our cars were. And so this 3-day, 2-night excursion by boat, we were able to get an Uber right back to where we started from, a 40-minute ride.
Right, and we're talking, three longer days. I mean,
very long days. Like we were going from 8 a.m. till 10:30 at night.
Yeah. If you're planning on a trip that far in that area, I would say you should plan for 4 days at least. If you don't want to push it that hard. I mean, granted, we did start midday the first day.
Yeah. But, and then we finally got into our slip at Harrington. What was it, like 5 o'clock?
It was 5, but this time of year, you don't have a lot of.
And maybe it was later than that because it was dark. Was it 5?
Yeah, it gets dark at 4:30 around.
It's crazy.
So sunsets during the winter, obviously, are a lot earlier. But but overall, it was good. It was kind of an eye opener to see how fast we could cross over from one side to the other via motor vehicle. But it was fine. Like I said, the challenges, fuel, weather was actually pretty good, so not quite as much challenge there. Maybe just the cold, limited visibility. We did a lot of night sailing or motoring. That was challenging. We had a little bit of fog. Looking out for obstructions, stuff like that is challenging, but overall I think it went well.
It did. It went really well. I really liked the boat. That was one thing, like that boat feels so solid. Like I felt so safe and secure. Like it just feels like a solid boat.
Yeah, she's a big heavy boat. I think she displaces about 21,000 pounds. So, which was kind of shocking when we got hit by those rollers, but we were broadside, but it moved us pretty good. So they were decent size, and just the wave state had us, bobbing back and forth. It was, the side of the boat was about, down below was about to reach out and touch your face if you weren't careful. So hold on and be careful, and make sure you got something to hold on to.
Yeah.
Other than that,
all in all, great experience. We're very interested to see the results of the survey so that we can determine whether this is indeed the boat for us.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching. And truly, before we close, I want to also give a shout out These were indeed amazing. If you saw one of our videos, you saw me talking about this on our trip. But the moment we got back, I had to go back down to Harris Teeter and buy some more. So Old Bay cheese curls, highly recommend. They truly are delicious. You won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching.